For months, people assumed that if Caitlin Clark was ever handed a life-changing payday, her entire fanbase would be right behind her. $1 million for just 8 weeks of basketball sounded like the kind of headline that would flip the sport upside down, especially when her WNBA salary barely cracks the level of an entry-level office job. On paper, the offer from Unrivaled should have been irresistible. More money, lighter travel, shorter season, and the spotlight all to herself. It should have been the moment that pulled her fans into a brand new era of women's basketball. But instead of excitement, something completely different happened. Her fans shut the door. Not quietly. Not with hesitation. They rejected the entire idea faster than anyone expected. Polls weren't even close. Nearly 8 out of 10 fans said, absolutely not. And the reaction spread across social media like wildfire. The message wasn't soft or confused. It was firm, loud, and unified. They didn't want her anywhere near that league. And this wasn't about loyalty to a logo or a paycheck. Fans weren't thinking about the $1 million number. They were thinking about everything behind it. The league's reputation, its format, its motives, and the people running it. Instead of a golden opportunity, they saw a red flag. A flashy offer that felt more like a grab for her brand than a genuine place for her to grow. Unrivaled assumed her fanbase would follow the money. Instead, the money pushed them further away. Long before the $1 million offer made headlines, Caitlin Clark's fans had already made their stance clear. When the very first poll circulated asking whether they'd watch her play in Unrivaled, the results were almost unbelievable. This wasn't a close split or a hesitant majority. It was a landslide. Roughly 78% of voters said they wouldn't tune in. Only about 22% were open to it. For any new league, that kind of response isn't just disappointing. It's devastating. What made the moment even more shocking was who the rejection came from. This wasn't a random sample of sports fans. This was her audience, the people who sell out every arena she steps into, who watch games just because she's involved, who buy jerseys, break rating records, and turn entire franchises profitable. If a league can't win over them, then nothing else matters. No clever branding, no celebrity investors, no stylish logos. Without her fanbase, there's no financial boost, no media buzz, and no guaranteed future. And it wasn't because people doubted Caitlin's ability to elevate the product. They simply didn't trust the product she'd be elevating. To them, Unrivaled wasn't offering basketball, it was offering an experiment. A rushed, unproven idea dressed up in neon graphics and hype videos. And no matter how loud the marketing got, fans saw through it immediately. They knew the league needed her far more than she needed it, and they refused to play into that dynamic. What her fans understood better than anyone is that Caitlin Clark isn't just a great player, she's an economic engine. Every league she touches instantly becomes more valuable. TV partners see ratings that double or triple. Arenas go from half-empty to packed weeks in advance. Merchandise doesn't just sell, it sells out. Entire road games become traveling events built around one player. When analysts say she's a $50 million a year impact, they're not exaggerating. That's the scale of influence she brings. So when Unrivaled flashed $1 million offer, fans didn't view it as a sign of respect. They viewed it as a discount. A bargain. A buy-in price for a league that hoped she'd carry all of its weight. It wasn't generosity, it was strategy. Because if Unrivaled could use her name to raise sponsorship revenue, land bigger investors, secure media deals, and claim legitimacy, that $1 million would come back to them 10 times over. To fans, the math was obvious. And so was the message. Caitlin wasn't the one benefiting from the deal. Unrivaled was. Her supporters have watched for months as she lifts the WNBA to record-breaking heights while earning a salary smaller than players who barely move the needle. They can see how much value she creates versus how little she receives. That's why the $1 million offer didn't impress them, it offended them. It felt like another attempt to lowball someone who has already outgrown every system built around her. Inside Unrivaled, the growing panic isn't hard to understand. From the start, their entire blueprint relied on one thing: securing Caitlin Clark. Not just as a player, but as the league's anchor, the star who could unlock new investors, boost media rights, and give sponsors a reason to take the league seriously. One executive even compared her impact to Shohei Ohtani, saying she has a direct influence on the bottom line in a way almost no athlete ever has. When her name is attached, numbers jump. When it isn't, they stall. That's why her fans rejecting the league wasn't just a bad look, it was a crisis. Without her audience following her in, Unrivaled doesn't get the financial bump it needs. They can't walk into banks and pitch bigger projections. They can't justify expansion. They can't promise sponsors the same visibility the WNBA gets with her on the court. Her brand is the fuel, and without it, the engine never turns over. And behind the scenes, the tension only grows. The WNBA is already pushing back against players joining rival leagues. Negotiations around the CBA have been messy. Timing around Unrivaled's announcements feels less like coincidence and more like a strategic grab for attention. All of it adds pressure on the commissioner. Pressure to land the one player who could save their entire roadmap. But now they're realizing something they didn't expect. The biggest obstacle isn't Caitlin. It's her fans. For months, fans have watched Caitlin Clark walk into the WNBA and deal with a level of hostility that rarely greets a rookie. Hard fouls, bitter comments, cold reactions, and an undercurrent of envy that everyone can feel, even if no one outright admits it. So when Unrivaled's offer appeared, fans didn't see a fresh start, they saw the same environment all over again. Same players, same grudges, just repackaged in a smaller gym with brighter lights. That's why so many supporters immediately pushed back. They don't want her joining another league filled with the very people who've made her journey harder than it needed to be. To them, it's not about competition. It's about protection. They've seen how jealousy impacts the way she's treated on the court. They've seen the social media drama, the interviews, the subtle digs. And the idea of handing those same players a brand new platform to ride her name felt completely backwards. Even the format fed into that frustration. In a tight 3x3 setting, chemistry matters more than ever. Fans couldn't imagine her trying to navigate that dynamic with athletes who've openly shown resentment. It didn't feel like a showcase, it felt like a trap. And the last thing her audience wants is to watch her elevate players who wouldn't show her the same respect in return. Once fans looked past the money and the roster, the next issue became impossible to ignore: the product itself. Unrivaled positioned its 3x3 format as fast, modern, and edgy. But viewers saw something very different. The dark gyms, the awkward camera angles, the empty corners of the court, and the oddly quiet atmosphere made it feel less like a professional league and more like a Tuesday night rec run at the local Y. For a player who routinely packs NBA-sized arenas, that downgrade wasn't just noticeable, it was jarring. And the 3x3 problem ran deeper than visuals. Caitlin Clark's popularity is built on her long-range shooting, her court vision, her pacing, her ability to orchestrate a full team. In a tight half-court format with limited spacing, none of that shines the same way. Fans knew it instantly. The style didn't match her strengths, and it didn't resemble the basketball they were used to celebrating. Instead of elevating her, it risked shrinking her game into something unrecognizable. Then came the attendance claims. Unrivaled repeatedly insisted their events sold out, yet broadcasts showed maybe a few dozen people scattered around the gym. Fans didn't buy the numbers, didn't trust the production, and didn't want their favorite player stepping into a league that didn't look ready for the spotlight she brings. For a star who just took women's basketball to record-breaking heights, the setting mattered, and this setting simply wasn't worthy. Unrivaled didn't just keep promoting itself, it doubled down. New teams were announced, glossy names were unveiled, and logos dropped like confetti. The league made it seem as if momentum was undeniable, as if demand was exploding and expansion was the only logical next step. But fans didn't see growth. They saw desperation. Adding teams when your audience is still microscopic doesn't feel like progress, it feels like a gamble. That's why Caitlin Clark's supporters reacted the way they did. They've watched real growth happen in real time with the WNBA. They've watched arenas fill, ratings jump, and media coverage reach levels never seen before. With Caitlin involved, the numbers don't just rise, they skyrocket. Without her, they fall back to earth. That contrast exposed Unrivaled's problem instantly. Their expanding league was being built on projections, not proof. The comparison to other leagues only made things clearer. Unrivaled was pulling in around 150,000 viewers. Meanwhile, Ice Cube's Big Three, a league of retired NBA players running full-court pickup, regularly drew 600,000. And the WNBA. When Caitlyn plays, they sometimes match or beat NBA broadcasts. Fans saw the chart, connected the dots, and realized the truth. Putting her in a tiny Miami gym wasn't just a step down, it was a waste of her influence. They didn't want her lifting another unsteady experiment on her back. They wanted her building something real, something stable, something worthy of the impact she brings. And without her fans behind it, Unrivaled's entire growth story cracked wide open. At the heart of everything, the rejection came down to one simple truth. Caitlyn Clark's fans want her in environments that respect her impact, not exploit it. They don't want her stepping into a new league just so other players, many of whom have shown open resentment, can ride the wave of her popularity. They don't want her helping a startup inflate its valuation off her name. And they don't want her forced into a format or a setting that dilutes what makes her special. Her audience has watched her fight for every inch of respect in the WNBA. They've seen how her presence changes cities, ratings, and entire franchises. They've seen her get treated like the face of the sport while earning a salary that doesn't reflect even a fraction of her value. So when Unrivaled tried to lure her with $1 million headline, fans didn't celebrate, they bristled. Because to them, the offer wasn't about honoring her. It was about using her. They want the world to meet Caitlyn where she truly is, a generational star who deserves arenas, national broadcasts, and real basketball. Not gimmicks, shortcuts, or leagues hoping to cash in on her rise. And when her own supporters turned their backs on Unrivaled, it made one thing clear. Any league that wants Caitlyn Clark has to offer more than money. They have to offer legitimacy. They have to offer respect. And most importantly, they have to offer a platform worthy of the player who's redefining women's basketball in real time. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you enjoy breaking down the real stories behind the headlines, the stuff most people overlook, feel free to subscribe. It helps the channel grow, and it lets me keep bringing you deep dives just like this one. No pressure at all, just glad to have you here.